Florida member of Congress, Republican Byron Donalds. Good to see you. Happy New Year to you and the family.
Good to be with you, man. Happy New Year.
So, Byron, the main concern is if DEI isn't forced as a focus, you will not have representation and inclusion of minorities, regardless of foundation of merit. And that's why it needs to be a point of emphasis. What is your response to that argument, and how do you assure that everybody gets a fair chance?
Here we go. Byron Donalds, he is really good. There's a lot to like there. I'm going to try not to talk about that situation 7,000 miles away. Take that out of the equation. I like him a lot. If you take that out, so not a small thing, but you take that out of the equation, I like Byron Donalds. This is Chris Cuomo. He's on News Nation here, basically a Fox News. He basically went from CNN to Fox News. News Nation, I like it better than Fox News, but it's News Nation. Let's go. Let's see. DEI is a topic. That means just woke. You can just call it woke. DEI wokeness. If DEI is done, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Byron Donalds is one of the best at articulating these positions. Let's hear what he has to say.
Well, first of all, let me just say that DEI, and it's a construct of DEI, hasn't even been around long enough to even make that kind of a claim. We've had diversity viewpoints, diversity ideas, not just in the federal government, but in the private sector for decades. The equity piece that was really introduced during the Biden-Harris administration at the federal level is the one that has a cause of concern because it ignores merit, it ignores skill sets, it ignores the ability to actually do the job and puts your demographic criteria at the front of the line before your actual qualifications. Look, I think at the end of the day, everybody wants to make sure that people who are getting jobs are qualified to do them. That is most important. But you can't put just diversity for diversity's sake ahead of qualifications. It's not 1972, it's 2025. We're in a different phase in the United States of America. And so I would argue that, yes, meritocracy does matter, whether you're Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever the case might be. You have to have the skill set, you have to have the merit in order to acquire these jobs. Your diversity or your intersectionality cannot be the driving force because that does discriminate against other people who might be more qualified for that job.
Finish him. Byron Donalds, I mean, there's only one small thing that he can't really say on these mainstream things, but I ain't mainstream, so I can say it. He's on with Chris Cuomo, so he's buttoned up, but he's not like did a reaction to Cory Booker on with David Pakman. And I told you, Cory Booker, when he talks, it's like, wah, 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 wah. I don't care. You have nothing to say. Byron Donalds is a whole different thing. I listen to every single word on edge of every single word here, and I've heard these type of discussions a lot. He just cuts through the noise, at least for me. You tell me in the comments if it's different for you. The one bone that I have to pick for him, you might be surprised, might not be, is when he went back to, I believe he said 1792. I don't agree with that either. Either you're for meritocracy or you're not. There is no half-stepping on that, just like the First Amendment. And meritocracy includes if you're Native Americans and people come through from a different part of the globe that you might have or might not have been aware of, and they have this thing called powder, and they put it in the barrel of something, and they kind of own you. That's meritocracy, whether you like it or not. If a cheetah can run fast enough to get a baby antelope or whatever the hell deer type of thing they eat, that's a meritocracy. If they can escape, that's a meritocracy. I saw a video of, I forget if it was a dog or something trying to come up on a horse. Horses can kick really hard. And that horse kicked the out of that dog. That's a meritocracy. So am I pro-slavery, or I think that's where he was going with that? No, but I am pro-meritocracy. I'm glad to be here. My ancestors got captured and survived. That's good stuff there. Not everybody did. And it was black on black in Africa. It was black on black here. Well, that's not a race thing. But if we're going to be for meritocracy, There is no buts. There is no qualification for that. Period. Even if you want to talk about the tiny hats, let's do the reverse take. I'm talking about what I see. If they can dominate, that's a meritocracy. Why are we letting them dominate? I said I wasn't going to talk about them, but I can't. Every show you're going to get a reference. But let's get back to Chris Cuomo. Let's get back on target. Chris Cuomo on with Byron Donalds.
And what about people of color who are qualified but don't get the opportunities that people who are in the majority get because of the inclination of employers and legacy and other acceptance mechanisms?
I don't know what he's going to say, but that means they're not qualified. So if somebody says, if somebody picks somebody who's not, whatever that means, qualification is in the eye of the beholder. Joe Biden said, I'm going to pick a black woman. I believe that's what he said when he did Ketanji Brown Jackson. That's a qualification. I'm not qualified. I'm not a woman. And there's other qualifications too. So let's hear what Byron Donalds has to say.
Well, let's just dissect that for a second. There's always going to be a legacy bias because the truth of the matter is that people who have legacy or have different connections, they're going to provide those connections to their children. That's just a fact of life. That's not a white thing. That's a parent thing. Every parent does that regardless of their skin color. You could look in the NBA right now where you have a lot of prospects moving up who are now the children of former NBA players.
What?
Why is that? Because their parents, their fathers actually went through the NBA process, whether they were superstars like LeBron James or not superstars, but they were able to use their connections to help their children achieve a better path forward in professional sports. That happens in every industry in our country. So put legacy aside. The key piece is if you have the talent and the ability to actually walk in the door and earn a position, yes, you sometimes have to work your way up from the bottom. I started my career in 2003 out of college. Black kid in Southwest Florida, had no connections. I started at the bottom. I worked my way up. This is how it is supposed to work. But if you just supercharge somebody past the initial starting blocks, do they have the requisite skill to get there? And do they have the requisite experience to stay there? That's where some of the DEI stuff that has come out. And again, this is very recent. Like I said, diversity has been a staple of corporate America for decades. That's something that's been there. But the equity component, trying to move somebody ahead of the line simply because of their intersectionality, actually does not work. It is discriminatory. And if you don't believe me, ask Harvard how that's worked out, where they were sued in federal court for using an equity lens and ignoring the merit that was achieved by Asian American students.
Bars again. What do you want me to say? Let's keep it going.
Yeah. Representative Donalds, I know the case well. I cited it in the introduction. I appreciate you articulating the position of the administration. It's good to see you. We'll talk again soon. Hey.
And what we're seeing is Donald Trump is, I don't know what it is, a cultural. Here's my final takeaway from this. Donald Trump is a force of nature. He's coming in, Target's getting rid of their DEI. Everybody is. Damn near everybody. Who's not? I don't know if Comcast is. I haven't heard that. I mean, they're definitely not getting rid of it on their TV show with the MS. Well, they spun it off, but I think it's still under Comcast. I'm not really sure. But yeah, it's Trump's back. Somebody, Charles, what's his name? Gosh, James Charles, right? Charles. Gosh, he's a great writer. Jeffrey Charles. My bad. He went from Red State and he went to somewhere else. I forget. Great writer. Great. We disagree a lot. I think he's a lefty libertarian, but I think very highly of him. And I believe they're married. His wife. But there was a comment where somebody said, and I understand why he was upset. Somebody said, I forget who it was. It might have been Byron Donalds. It might have been Byron Donalds, in fact, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna look that up. If that was Byron? I did find it. Here it is. Byron Donalds. It was. I didn't even it connected. I didn't even mean for it to connect. Here it is.
Sees the numbers. He'll figure a way to do it.
It's not just.
It's very quiet. He'll figure a way to do it. He'll figure a way to do it. What are you going to say?
It's going to be that. I mean, when Americans see deportations or repatriations happen, they're going to be like, thank you. When they see the border closed, they're going to say, this is what I voted for. When they see peace starting to break out again around the world, they're going to be like, this is the stability that we were asking
Right.
for. Daddy's back.
So-
and that's what you're going to see.
So you just
So people tried to clown him, and I get why you would clown him. It's kind of cringe, especially if you're not a Trump supporter, but I see no lies detected. Doesn't it feel like that? I understand why you might think the phrase is cringe, but it feels like DEI is gone. He's cleaning up the border. Donald Trump came in and said, by the time I get into office, I'm not even, forget about the country that I don't support clearly. When Donald Trump got in office, he was like, by the time I'm sworn in, the hostages better be returned or daddy's going to get the belt. He literally, not literally, but he basically said that. And then people were debating who should get the credit, Biden or Trump, for that. Biden had it the whole time. What am I supposed to think? It's a coincidence that Donald Trump said, daddy's going to get the belt if you don't clean up your room. And right before the inauguration, the room gets cleaned up. That's the difference. That's my takeaway is DEI gone. And you might cringe when you hear it, but you won't tell me that it's a lie, that daddy's back.
The next clip is ready below. Welcome to After Show Carnage.